डॉक्टर बाबासाहेब आंबेडकर ओपन युनिव्हर्सिटी.
Namaskar, I, Dr. Darshana Dalwadi, is welcoming you from the Chaitanya studio of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University in the lecture series of Principles of Cyber Security. Today we are going to discuss about Unit 2, which is about attack vectors, threats and risk and vulnerability of our computer system. In previous lecture, we have seen that we are having many things in our computer system. When we are talking about security of the system, at that time we need to understand what is the system, for what the system is, how much security the system require. According to that, we are having different things which we need to take care to protect it. Now what we are having in that system which we need to attend first to have the secure system? Already we have discussed all the things. Today we are having the brief look of it. In last lecture we discussed about the attacks, the risks which are related to it, threats, vulnerabilities, assets and the countermeasures. We have also discussed the types of attack. Mainly we were having two types of attack, active attack and passive attack. Now what do you mean by active attack? Active attack means in which the attackers are actively taking part, they are doing some modifications in it, so that is called as active attack. And passive attack means in which the attackers are taking parts but they are not doing any modification. So these are the basic types we have discussed. Then based on the origin of the attack, we are also having two types, that is inside attack and outside attack. Inside attack means which is done within the organization. In organization only we are having the attacker who is attacking the system. If such attack we have, then it is called as the inside attack. And if we are having the person or the attacker who is outsider, means they are not authorized users but they are trying to attack the system, trying to steal the information from the system, then if such type of thing we have, then it is called as the outside attack. After that we also discussed the phishing attack. As we know what the name suggests, phishing, it means attracting something. They are trying to attract the users by allowing them some data for which the user is already searching. So based on that, they are attracting the users and trying to steal the information from the users provided data. In that phishing attack we have also discussed the spear phishing, which is for a particular group. Now in today's lecture we are going to see the remaining attacks and the risks which are involved with it. For the risk we have risk assessment also. Now moving forward, we are seeing that first attack we have, that is SQL injection attack. Now as the name suggests, what is the meaning of SQL? When we are talking about SQL, it is pronounced as SQL, which is standing for the structured query language. It's a programming language which is used to communicate with databases. When we have database in which we are having the information of users, we are storing it in database and we want to take it back. At that time we have to give some language to it by which it will collect the data and will deliver the data to the user. So that is written in the query form and that is called as the structured query language, called as SQL. Now it is used to store critical data of websites, users, services in their databases. Now what SQL is doing? SQL is actually one type of database which is storing the information of websites, users, services and whatever services they are providing, they are storing the information of this such these things in their database, which can contain personal and sensitive information. It may have the personal information like username and password, or it may have the sensitive information like transaction detail. So this is what we are having in SQL. Now when we are having SQL injection, at that time what happens? When SQL injection attack is there, at that time this attack is trying to target the database. And how they are targeting the database? Using the specifically crafted SQL statements, which will trick the system into unexpected and undesired output. We will have query only, but the query will be specifically crafted so that they can trick the system, by which the system will give the output as they want. So that is what the main thing we are having in SQL injection. Now in SQL injection attack, it can be carried out in different ways, which can be decided after the attacker identifies system behavior. Now for having SQL injection, it is not fixed that in which way the SQL injection will be done. So what the attacker is doing? First they are identifying the behavior of the system. First they learn. First they check how the system is behaving, how the system is working, what are the loopholes from where they can steal the data, which type of query they can generate by which they can steal the data. So this is what they are doing first. First they will identify the system's behavior, and based on that they will decide in which way they can get the data from the system. If the web application is building a SQL query string dynamically with the account number the user is providing, it might look something like this. Here one example is given to you so that you can easily understand. In this query what we have seen, here you can see one query is written in which user is giving one input. So if such type of query is there, we have written one query in which the user is providing some data. What is the query? Select star from customers where account is equal to user provided account number. What will be the value of this account? That value will be provided by the user. So if such type of query is there, then what it will do? Actually what should be done? Whenever the user is providing the account number, that specific account number detail should be written. Means whatever account number the user has entered, that account number's information, only one information should be displayed as a output. One result should be there. While this works for users who are properly entering their account number, it leaves the door open for attackers. Actually what happens? When the user is giving the proper account number, at that time it will give proper output. But it is a door, it is a space from where the attacker can steal the data. How? For example, if someone decided to provide an account number of whatever account in this query we are having here, user provided account number, instead of that, suppose we are taking the value of space or 1 equal to 1, then that would result in a query string. Now query string will be changed. What will be the new query string? Select star from customers where account is equal to space or 1 is equal to 1. Now when this query is fired, at that time what happens? Due to this statement 1 equal to 1, it will always evaluate to true. It means whenever we are having such thing, 1 equal to 1 is true, so it will always give the true result. So when this statement is executed, then the database will result in the data for all customers being returned instead of just a single customer. Actually what should happen? We should get the information of only one user whose account number we have given, but instead of that we have changed the query like this. We are getting the user details Instead of one user, we are getting number of users. The above query might not work for all the databases, but it can work where there are less or no security measures are taken to filter such SQL injection queries. Now this is simple example. It is not so that every time you will have such type of queries, but it is one example that such thing can happen. Simple one is given like this. So what should we do? First, actually we should provide proper measures to prevent such SQL attacks. Now we are having other type of SQL injection attacks that are blind SQL injection. Second one we have that is out of bound SQL injection. Now to prevent it, what we can do? Up to this we have seen that how SQL injection is taken. See, this is only one example. You may have different way, you may have different query according to your requirement. According to the requirement of the attacker, they will change the query as well as based on the behavior they will change the query. Now what are the preventive measures we can take for SQL injection? Avoiding the use of dynamic SQL. Instead of dynamic SQL, try to use wherever you can use static SQL. Every time it is not possible, but where it is possible you can apply. Sanitize user inputs. Don't store data in plain text. Instead of storing the data in plain form, try to store it in some other form or in encrypted form so that easily it cannot be retrieved. And if it is retrieved, then also they need to apply some decryption algorithm so that they can retrieve the original data. Provide access control and privileges. Whenever you are storing the information, you should provide the access control and privileges. It means what? Simply, if you want to use this data, then you require such input which you need to give in your system. After that only you will be able to retrieve the data. In simple terms, you can say you have to provide authorization. Use of web application firewalls. Next thing we can do, that is we can use the firewalls also. So these are the preventive measures we can take for SQL injection. Now next attack we have, that is DOS and DDoS, that is denial of service and distributed denial of service attack. Now what do you mean by denial of service attack? It is focusing on disrupting or preventing legitimate users from accessing the websites or applications or any other resource by sending flood of messages, packets and connection requests. This DOS are actually doing what? They are preventing the legitimate users. Legitimate users means the authorized users who are having access, who are having authorization for using that system. They are preventing such type of users from accessing the websites or applications. Whatever application they are accessing, they are preventing it. They are preventing the authorized users by not allowing the access of that application. Any other resources instead of this two, website or application. Suppose you are having any other resource like any other resource you have, then how it will prevent? It will prevent by sending the flood messages, means it will send number of messages at the time, then packets and connection requests. What actually this will do, when we are sending number of messages at the same time, at that time it is causing the slowdown of your system. Simple example I am giving, when we are using simple computer system, at that time we are using mouse with it. Suppose one application is open and if we are clicking the mouse number of times, what will happen? Your system will hang, right? So same things they are doing. What they are doing, they are sending number of messages at the same time. They are doing the flooding of message, flooding of packets, flooding of connection requests, which will result in system slowdown. and as a second result we may have the crash of the system. It will do what? As a effect, what we will have? The system will be unavailable to its user. So such type of attack is called as the denial of service, DOS. Attackers are mostly targeting high and value organizations such as media houses, banking organizations, financial organizations, e-commerce to disrupt their services. The services which are providing the high sensitive data of users, to it this DOS is targeting. When the majority of present day DOS attack involves a number of systems, the number of systems may be in hundreds or thousands under the attacker's control, which are installed with the boots all simultaneously attacking the target. This coordination of attacking system is referred to as distributed denial of service, that is DDoS. Then here we can see simple example of DDoS architecture, how it is working. Here you can see attacker is there. Now this attacker will have two handlers who will help this attacker to slow down this victim system or to crash the system. Now to crash this, what this attacker will do? This attacker will give information to this two handler that we have to target this system. So for that, what this two handler will do? They will send number of zombies. Here you can see, here we are having number of zombies. At the same time, they are sending zombies to this victim system, to this target system. So what will happen? At the same time they are sending this zombies. So automatically this system will not be able to handle such type of load at a time. So it will slow down or it will crush completely. So this is what we are having in denial of service attack, distributed denial of service attack. Next attack we have, that is man in the middle attack and session hijacking. Now as the name suggests, what we are having in this attack? Man in the middle attack. It means in between the transmission we will have some middle person who is trying to steal the information. It attacks are a common type of cyber security attack. This type of attacks are common cyber security attacks that allows the attackers to eavesdrop on the communication between two targets. This type of attacks are doing what? They are allowing the attackers to eavesdrop information, means they can get some information within the transmission from sender to receiver. Then they can steal the data, they can hear it, they can do the modification in it. So this is what it is allowing. Then the attack take place between two legitimately communicating hosts. Now such type of attacks will be where we are having legitimate users, means authorized users. When we are having authorized host at both the sites, at that time such type of attacks takes place. Then these attacks are allowing the attackers to listen to a conversation they should normally not be able to listen. Actually, when we are having conversation from sender to receiver, at that time normally the attackers are not able to listen what they are transmitting. The conversation is in between two hosts, means from sender to receiver. But when we have such attack, at that time it is allowing the attacker to listen it. As they are listening, they can do the modification. Not necessary that they are modifying, they can. When a user is using the internet and our computer performs a lot back and forth transactions, at that time the application generates and uses a session ID which will be unique, and to make the transactions private between user and application. Whenever we are having computer system, when we are using internet on that system, at that time it is taking number of steps for one particular process. Simple example, suppose we are using internet, when we are using any website, when we are opening any website, at that time we will have unique session ID for that website. So when we are having this type of use of any computer system, at that time our application is generating one session ID which will be unique for particular session, and to make the transactions private between the user and the application, the attacker hijacks the session ID. Now in this attack, what happens? The attackers are hijacking the session ID. Whatever session ID is generated for one particular user to application, that session ID is hijacked by the attacker. And what they are doing? They are eavesdropping the communication between the user and the application. With the help of that session ID, they are trying to eavesdrop the communication the user and the application is having. There are various types of man in the middle attack. There are many man in the middle attacks are available, like row access points, ARP spoofing, DNS spoofing, then packet injection, SSL stripping. So these are the examples of man in the middle attack, or we can say session hijacking also. Why the name is session hijacking? You got it? Because it is hijacking the session ID which we are having for that particular system and the user. After that, how to prevent it? What steps the user can take for preventing this session hijacking? They can prevent it by using the strong WEP or WAP encryption or access points, using a virtual private network VPN, then enforce HTTPS, and using a strong combination of the public key pair authentication. So these are the measures we can take for preventing the session hijacking attack. Next attack we have that is brute force attack, or we can say password attack. As the name suggests, what we will have in this attack? The name is password attack. It means it will be related to password. Somewhere in this attack passwords will be used, because of which the name to this attack is given as a password attack. Now what actually it is, we will see now. The theory behind such an attack is that if you take an infinite number of attempts to guess a password, you are bound to be right eventually. Simply this means what? When you are having any system, you want to hack it. You don't know the password of the system, but you are trying to guess. One time you are guessing, you are not getting success. Second time you are guessing, you are not getting success. Like this you are trying number of times. So infinite number of attempts you are doing, at somewhere you will get right part. That is the possibility. So the logic behind this attack is this, that try, somewhere you will get succeed. The term brute force means overpowering the system through repetition. The meaning of brute force means you are trying to overpower your system by doing repetition of the things. You are repeating one task number of times, by which you are getting the information. A brute force attack is among the simplest and least sophisticated hacking method. This is the simple one. Brute force attack often use automated systems or tools to perform the attack, in which different password combinations are used to try to gain entry to a network, such as a dictionary attack list or using rainbow tables. So such type of attacks we have when we are having repetition of the task. It is called as the brute force. The attacker aims to forcefully gain access to a user account by attempting to guess the username or email and password. Attackers are not knowing the username and password. They are not knowing anything about the users, but they are just assuming it. They are just guessing, and by that only they are trying to get the information of username and password. Usually the motive behind such type of attack is to use the breached account to execute a large scale attack, steal sensitive data, shut down the system, or a combination of the three. What are the motive behind such type of attack? Motive behind this is what? They are stealing the information and trying to execute it at a large scale. For one particular user they got success, then they can apply it for large number of users. They can steal the information. They can steal sensitive data also. Then they can shut down the system. By stealing such information, totally the system can be crashed or shut down can be there, or any combination of these three. These are the motive of our brute force attack. Now what we can do for preventing it? We can prevent it by using a strong password combination policy and require to change a password on regular interval. As we know that this is password attack, means the attackers are trying passwords. So we need to have strong password combination policy to prevent it. This is the basic thing we can do. Locking out accounts on a certain number of incorrect password attempts. As this facility we can see in number of systems right now. Like if we are using your ATM system, you are giving password, but by mistake suppose you are authorized user and you are giving the user's detail by yourself only, but because of some mistake you are giving wrong information, then also it is giving you the message that this is your second attempt. After third attempt you will be logged out or you will not be able to log in your system. So we have to provide certain limits, like for 3 times I am allowing, then after 3 times automatically my account will be locked. No other person will be able to use, even I am not able to use it because I have given 3 times wrong password. So this is what we are doing, locking of accounts. Then use CAPTCHA. This is the another thing we can do. Then two-factor authentication we can use. Two-factor authentication we have already discussed. Instead of giving only username and password, we need to give some combination with it, like username, password, then fingerprints or retina scan. Such type of things we can do. That is called two-factor authentication. Then monitoring server logs and limit logins from the single IP or range. So these are the things we can do to prevent this brute force attacks. So in this lecture we are keeping up to this. In next lecture we will do the discussion of remaining portions. Thank you.